I have eaten a lot of protein in my life. Chicken breast every day for months. Protein shakes after every workout. Canned tuna at my desk. And for a long time I thought that was enough. Eat protein, build muscle. Simple. But here is what I did not understand for years. Not all protein is the same. Two foods can both say 25 grams of protein on the label, and one of them will build significantly more muscle than the other. The difference comes down to something most people have never heard of. And once you understand it, you will never look at protein food the same way again. Today I am ranking every major protein food from worst to best, based on how much muscle it actually builds. Not how much protein is on the label, how much muscle your body can actually build from it. The science behind this ranking is going to surprise you. Some foods you think are the best protein sources are actually near the bottom. And some foods that most people overlook are at the very top. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which proteins to prioritize, which ones to combine, and why the number on the nutrition label is not telling you the full story. Let me start by explaining the one thing that determines everything. There is a molecule in your body called leucine. It is an amino acid, and leucine does one very specific thing. It acts as the trigger for muscle protein synthesis. Muscle protein synthesis is the biological process by which your body actually builds and repairs muscle tissue. Without enough leucine in a single meal, that process does not fully activate. You can eat 30 grams of protein and still not trigger the muscle building response if the leucine content is too low. Researchers have identified what they call the leucine threshold. You need approximately 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine in a single meal to maximize muscle protein synthesis. That is the number. Everything below it is a partial signal. Everything at or above it is a full signal. This is why the protein quality scoring systems exist. The most accurate one is called the DEAAS, the Digestible Indispensable Amino Acid Score. It measures how much of the protein in a food your body can actually absorb and use, accounting for the complete amino acid profile, including leucine. A score of 100 means perfect. A score above 100 means the protein is so complete and well absorbed that it exceeds the reference standard. Below 100 means something is missing or not fully digestible. This is the system I'm using to rank every food today. Not total protein on the label. Actual usable protein that triggers muscle building in your body. Let us go from the bottom up. At the bottom of the ranking are refined grains, white bread, white rice, regular pasta, most breakfast cereals. Yes, these foods contain some protein. White rice has about 4 to 5 grams per cooked cup, but the DIAS score for refined grains ranges from 40 to 55%. That means your body is only absorbing and using roughly half of that protein. And more critically, the amino acid profile is severely incomplete. Grains are extremely low in leucine, one of the essential amino acids required for muscle building. The leucine content is also well below the threshold needed to trigger a meaningful muscle protein synthesis response. This does not mean you should eliminate grains. Carbohydrates from whole grains fuel training and support recovery. But if you are eating a bowl of cereal and counting it as a protein source, the research says you are significantly overestimating the muscle building value. One step up from refined grains are most vegetables and fruits. Broccoli, spinach, edamame, peas. These are genuinely healthy foods that support overall health and longevity. But their DIAS scores range from 40 to 70%, depending on the vegetable and the amino acid being measured. They tend to be low in leucine, and the protein that is present is partially bound in fibre that reduces digestibility. The exception here is edamame and green peas, which sit at the higher end of this category and contribute meaningful protein when eaten in quantity. But even the best vegetables are supporting players in your protein strategy, not the foundation. Now we move into the legume category, and this is where things get more interesting. Lentils, chickpeas, black beans, kidney beans. DIAS scores typically range from 60 to 75%. Better than grains, better than most vegetables, but still incomplete. The reason is that most legumes are low in methionine, one of the essential amino acids. They have good leucine content and solid digestibility. But that one missing piece limits the total muscle building signal. Here is the important part though. Legumes are the best plant-based protein source for most people in terms of cost, availability, fiber content, and overall health impact. A 2024 observational study found that for every 3% increase in calories from plant protein, women had 38% higher odds of healthy aging, significantly better than the effects of animal protein alone. Legumes are also strongly associated with lower cardiovascular disease risk, lower inflammation, and longer lifespan in research spanning multiple decades and populations. So legumes sit in the middle of this ranking for raw muscle building, but near the top for overall health impact. That distinction matters. And critically, their protein quality improves dramatically when you combine them with grains. This is the complementary protein principle. Grains are high in methionine, but low in leucine. Legumes are high in leucine, but low in methionine. Together they cover each other's gaps and create a complete amino acid profile. Rice and lentils, beans and corn tortillas, hummus on whole grain bread. Research confirms you do not need to eat these combinations in the same meal. Getting both within the same day is sufficient for your body to use the complete amino acid profile. Moving higher in the ranking, we reach soy. And soy deserves its own conversation because it sits in a category by itself among plant proteins. Tofu, tempeh, edamame, soy milk, soy protein isolate. Soy is the only plant protein with a DEAS score approaching 100%. It scores nearly as high as many animal proteins on both PDCAS and DEAS measures. It is a complete protein, meaning it contains all 9 essential amino acids in meaningful quantities. It has good leucine content. It is well absorbed. A 2025 systematic review published in Nutrition Reviews examined 43 clinical trials comparing plant and animal proteins for muscle growth and found that when total protein intake is sufficient, soy and other plant proteins can produce comparable results to animal protein in terms of muscle mass and strength gains. Tempeh sits at the top of the soy category because the fermentation process improves digestibility even further, reduces anti-nutrients that can block absorption, and adds beneficial probiotics. If you eat plant-based and you're not eating tempeh regularly, this is the upgrade that makes the most difference. Now we enter the top tier, and the first food in the top tier might surprise you. Cottage cheese, specifically low-fat cottage cheese. 1 cup of cottage cheese contains approximately 28 grams of protein. But more importantly, it is extraordinarily rich in casein, a slow-digesting dairy protein that releases amino acids gradually over 4 to 6 hours. And it has a DIS score near the top of the entire food ranking. Here is why this matters. Muscle protein synthesis is not just triggered once after a meal and then done. Your muscles are constantly in a cycle of building and breaking down. The slower casein releases amino acids, the longer that building signal stays elevated. Research has consistently shown that casein protein, and cottage cheese as a whole food source of it, is particularly effective at reducing muscle breakdown overnight and supporting recovery during sleep. Cottage cheese is also one of the highest leucine foods available. 1 cup delivers approximately 2.5 grams of leucine, right at the threshold needed to maximize muscle protein synthesis in a single sitting. For the cost, the protein content, and the leucine density, cottage cheese may be the most underrated muscle-building food in any grocery store in America. Right alongside cottage cheese at the top tier are eggs. Eggs have been called the gold standard of protein for decades, and the research consistently supports that reputation. The DIS score for whole eggs is close to 100%. Your body absorbs and uses essentially all of the protein in a whole egg. The amino acid profile is nearly perfect with high leucine content, all 9 essential amino acids in well-balanced quantities, and bioavailability that surpasses almost every other whole food. But here is what most people get wrong about eggs. They eat only the whites. And they are leaving most of the nutrition on the counter. The yolk contains approximately 40% of the egg's total protein. It also contains all of the fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K. It contains choline, which is critical for nerve function and often severely deficient in the American diet. It contains healthy fats that support hormone production, including testosterone, which is a key driver of muscle maintenance in both men and women. A whole egg delivers approximately 6 to 7 grams of protein. 3 whole eggs give you around 20 grams of protein, with a leucine content that fully triggers muscle protein synthesis. And research has shown that muscle protein synthesis is meaningfully higher after eating whole eggs compared to an equivalent amount of protein from egg whites alone, even when the total protein content is matched. The fat and micronutrients in the yolk enhance the muscle-building signal. Eat the whole egg. Next in the top tier is Greek yogurt. Full-fat or 2% Greek yogurt contains approximately 17 to 20 grams of protein per cup and a DIAS score near the ceiling of the ranking. Like cottage cheese, it is primarily casein protein with a portion of fast-digesting whey. The combination gives you both an immediate spike in amino acids and a sustained release over several hours. Greek yogurt is also one of the richest food sources of leucine available. A single cup delivers approximately 1.5 to 2 grams of leucine. Pair it with a handful of pumpkin seeds or nuts and you easily reach the full leucine threshold in one snack. And Greek yogurt provides probiotics that support gut health, which matters more for protein absorption than most people realize. A healthy gut lining absorbs amino acids more efficiently. Chronic gut inflammation reduces protein absorption even when your diet looks good on paper. Now we reach the animal protein sources that make up the upper part of the top tier: chicken breast, lean ground turkey, tuna, salmon. These foods all have DIAS scores between 90 and 100% and high leucine content. A 4-ounce serving of chicken breast delivers approximately 35 grams of protein, with roughly 2.5 grams of leucine. 4 ounces of tuna delivers similar numbers. These are the foods most people think of first when they think of protein. And for good reason. They earn their reputation. But there is a distinction within this group that matters. Fatty fish, salmon, sardines, mackerel, do something chicken breast cannot. They deliver omega-3 fatty acids alongside high-quality protein. And omega-3s have been shown in multiple studies to enhance muscle protein synthesis directly. They reduce inflammation in muscle tissue, which improves the efficiency of recovery and rebuilding. A 2024 study confirmed that combining omega-3 rich protein sources with resistance training produces greater muscle gains than the same training with protein sources low in omega-3s. Sardines sit at a special position in this category because they are one of the cheapest and most complete foods available. A can of sardines in olive oil delivers approximately 20 to 25 grams of complete protein, 2 to 3 grams of omega-3s, calcium from the soft bones, and vitamin D. All for under $2. If you are not eating sardines, the cost to muscle building value ratio is difficult to match anywhere else in the food supply. At the very top of the ranking is whey protein. Not because it is a food exactly. It is a processed supplement derived from milk, but it deserves the top position because the science on it is unambiguous. Whey protein has the highest DIAS score of any protein source measured. It is above 100. It is more rapidly digested than any whole food protein. It is extraordinarily rich in leucine. A 25-gram serving of whey protein isolate typically delivers 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine, hitting the full muscle-building threshold in a single serving. And a massive network meta-analysis published in 2026 examining 78 randomized controlled trials and over 4,700 participants found whey protein to be the most effective supplement for increasing muscle strength and fat-free mass compared to placebo. But here is the honest context. The advantage of whey over whole food protein sources is real but not dramatic for most people. The research shows that when total daily protein intake is adequate and spread across multiple meals, whole food protein sources like eggs, cottage cheese, and Greek yogurt produce muscle gains that are comparable to whey supplementation. Whey is most valuable in specific situations. Post-workout when you need rapid amino acid delivery, when you are struggling to hit your daily protein target from whole foods, or when you are older and your body's muscle-building response to protein has become less efficient. Research shows older adults may need more leucine per meal to trigger the same response as younger people, and whey can help hit that threshold. So here is how the full ranking breaks down in practical terms. At the bottom, refined grains as protein sources. Not worthless, but severely limited for muscle building. Above that are vegetables and fruits. Supportive, healthy, but not your primary protein strategy. then legumes and beans. Excellent overall health value. Good muscle building when combined with grains, and essential for long-term longevity. Then soy and soy products, especially tempeh, the best complete plant-based protein and underutilized by most Americans. Then the top tier, cottage cheese, whole eggs, Greek yogurt, fatty fish like salmon and sardines, chicken and turkey, and at the very peak, whey protein for those who want to optimize further. Now here is the practical piece. How do you actually use this information? The most important variable is not which food you eat. It is whether you are hitting your total daily protein target spread across multiple meals. Research consistently shows that spreading protein intake across 3 to 4 meals, each containing 20 to 40 grams of high-quality protein, is more effective for muscle building than eating the same total in 1 or 2 sittings. The Leucine threshold, 2.5 to 3 grams per meal, is the number to build around. At each meal, ask yourself whether your protein source reaches that threshold. 2 whole eggs does not. 3 whole eggs plus Greek yogurt does. A chicken breast does. A small handful of nuts does not. And the combination principle matters enormously for plant-based eaters. Pair legumes with grains at some point during the day. Add soy or tempeh to increase the overall quality. Use nutritional yeast to add complete protein and B12. The research from 2025 is now clear that plant-based diets can fully support muscle building and strength gains when the combinations are right and total protein is sufficient. Here is the bottom line. The number on the nutrition label is a starting point, not the whole story. What matters is the amino acid profile, the leucine content, the digestibility, and whether you are spreading that protein across enough meals to keep muscle protein synthesis elevated throughout the day. Focus on eggs, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, and fatty fish as your whole food anchors. Use legumes and soy generously for their long-term health benefits. Add whey protein if you need to fill gaps. And stop worrying about perfect and start building consistent habits around the foods at the top of this list. Drop a comment and tell me, which protein food were you most surprised about? I read every single one. And if this gave you a clearer picture of how to actually build muscle through food, subscribe. Every week I break down the science on nutrition so you can make smarter decisions without spending hours reading research papers. See you next week.